That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about The Protégé, the latest film directed by Martin Campbell, which Lionsgate is releasing August 20th, 2021.
What do we know from Martin Campbell?
Martin Campbell, I think he used to be kind of a big deal director. His heyday was probably in the late 90s, early 2000s, although he's been directing films since the 70s. He's directed 2 Bond films, including GoldenEye and Casino Royale.
Oh, wow.
The 2 Zorro films with Antonio Banderas, Mask of Zorro and Legend of Zorro. A Ray Liotta sci-fi flick I like called No Escape. If you like kind of over-the-top, camp, 90s thrillers, Defenseless, starring Barbara Hershey and Mary Beth Hurt. He did a miniseries called Edge of Darkness, which he remade himself, starring Mel Gibson in 2010,
Wow.
which is also a film that's worth a look. I think he stumbled a little bit with Green Lantern, the Ryan Reynolds superhero movie.
Oh, sure.
But his last movie prior to this, I really liked with Jackie Chan, called The Foreigner.
Nice. Well, this film exceeded my expectations.
Same, actually.
It stars Maggie Q,
As a woman named Anna,
Samuel L. Jackson,
whose name is Moody.
and Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, Rembrandt.
So Anna, Moody, and Rembrandt. Okay, so the story is kind of derivative, and there's a lot going on, but I feel like it was hard to explain, but it's pretty basic.
It's pretty basic, yeah.
Okay. We meet Maggie Q's character, Anna, when she's a kid in Vietnam.
In 1991.
1991. Her family's killed. And Moody, Samuel L. Jackson's character, sort of like adopts her, kind of. Then we flash forward 30 years, and we see that Anna and Moody work as assassins. And we get a scene of them in action in Romania.
In Bucharest, yep.
That's Romania?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This is where the film was shot, actually. Yeah.
Oh, nice. So we see them work. Then we cut to Anna's day job is she runs like a very high-end bookstore.
Antique and rare bookstore in London.
Yeah. Michael Keaton walks in trying to find a book, but then she tells him like that book sold for like $36 million or something.
There's only one first edition.
Yeah, so...
And then they bond over Edgar Allan Poe's Tamerlane.
So he sort of presents himself as being like romantically interested in her. Okay. Then we cut to Anna is headed to Moody's house because it's his 70th birthday. And we see that they have sort of a mother-daughter relationship. Father-daughter. Although we don't know how Moody identifies, but anyway.
I don't know how Sam Jackson would feel about that.
It's important to know that Moody's playing with a drone.
Yes.
Okay. Then some people break into Moody's home, and Moody's rich. He lives in this beautiful, beautiful home. And it looks like Moody's been killed. And Anna believes he's been killed. So she wants to find out who killed her friend, as she calls him.
He had alluded to that he would have to go back to Vietnam, kind of about an old case, and she finds a USB that's
in the drone.
That's hidden on the drone. Yeah.
She gets some information. To wrap it up, she kind of like connects the dots and finds like the person responsible. And the person responsible is a person who Sam Jackson's character had been hired to kill 30 years prior. But that person, who's like a terrible human being, like responsible for war crimes, among other things, had staged his own death. So Sam Jackson, wanting to finish the job he started, was looking for this person. And this person knew that like people were sniffing around about him, and Michael Keaton works for that person. So that's how Michael Keaton's character found himself at the bookstore. So everything converges with all 4 of them meeting at this... What's the man... Who plays that big bad guy?
Edward Hayes, the one who's still alive.
Yeah.
David Rintoul.
Yeah. They all show up at his big-ass house with the idea to kill him. It's also important to know that Moody, Sam Jackson's character, is suffering from whatever Nicole Kidman had in Moulin Rouge. Like, he's just, like, consumption. He's just coughing throughout the entire movie. So it seems like he's near death.
And it also culminates that there's this large party being held at Hayes' compound house.
So we have Sam Jackson and the bad guy sort of, like, together in a room, that scene, there's always that ubiquitous scene where, like, the person who's about to die and the person about to kill them have to like explain their entire history. It's like, just shoot him.
Yeah.
So there's that happening, and then there's Michael Keaton chasing Anna. And then he tells her like, well, weren't you going to kill old boy? And she's like, oh no, we already have a plan for that. And Sam Jackson blows up the house and kills himself. So he kills the bad guy and himself. And now we're left with Michael Keaton and Maggie Q. And then there's a scene where they are both pointing guns at each other, and then she ends up walking out of the room and he doesn't. So we presume she kills him. We also get a scene where we see her back in Vietnam as a kid.
We see what really happened to her family in front
and
of her.
her. Yeah. And so like we see that they're killed, and then we see the people who killed her family. One of the men was about to like molest this little girl, Maggie Q's character. So we see her kill all of those people, like with like a blank expression on her face, which is then supposed to relate to like how she ended up becoming a cold-blooded assassin. The end. I don't have any notes except that I was impressed with Maggie Q. I think she's an interesting choice for like an action star because she's very frail looking.
She's very thinly framed.
I know I comment a lot on people's appearance, but it's like, I don't know if she's underweight. Maybe that's her natural. Although, you know, she does do those commercials for like gut health. And so she just looks very fragile. And then but in the film, she really does kick ass.
I was actually quite impressed with her as well. You know, we reviewed recently last year Fantasy Island and Death of Me. Fantasy Island's terrible, but Death of Me had some interesting things about it. To me, this is the best utilization of her thus far. Originally, this project was called The Asset, which I guess The Protégé is nominally a better title than that. And I've been struck by the poster art of it as well, because she's kind of splashed on there with looking a little bit like Maggie Cheung in Irma Vep, which is one of my favorite Olivier Assayas films, which I'd love for you to watch. So that black slinky catsuit thing and that kind of, you know, Egyptian-looking wig, I guess. So I've been interested in this because of the look of its presentation, and of course Martin Campbell. The screenwriter Richard Wenk, who's also a director. He directed Vamp with Grace Jones.
Oh.
Which is the only thing, besides Grace in that movie, that has a great poster as well. And Just the Ticket, starring Andy Garcia and Annie McDowell. But he's written a bunch of things, kind of recalibrated 1970s stuff, like The Mechanic and The Equalizer, Magnificent Seven, and Jack Reacher sequel. So this is very much at that level because there are a lot of problems with some of the dialogue.
Yeah, so Maggie Q's character is meant to be sarcastic because she describes herself as sarcastic, and I think it's trying a little hard. I think she delivers the lines like she did the best she could with those lines.
I think everybody kind of, yeah.
Yeah, but it felt a little corny, especially because then you have Michael Keaton's character attempting to romance her. So they're doing this back and forth thing that...
This violence and sex kind of face-off that doesn't quite work. It's not elegant enough for that to work. It's not True Lies. Although I did think of Tia Carrere a couple times and how we've come a long way with, you know, like Asian women that... are seductresses that are allowed to be kind of the heroine as well.
And that's what I appreciate most about this story. You know, it is interesting watching this very frail looking woman. Well, because there's a scene where she gets hit, like she runs out of a building and gets hit by a car, flies into the air, gets hit by another car, and she just gets up.
There are a couple moments where you can see a little bit of the CGI, but for the most part, I thought the fight choreography was good.
Yeah, and I think the film, there are some really nice shots.
Yes.
It looks more expensive than I'm sure the budget was.
It was shot by David Tattersall, who did George Lucas's refurbished Star Wars prequels in the early 2000s, as well as The Green Mile, and he shot The Foreigner. Overall, I think it looks good, probably better than what its budget might otherwise indicate. Michael Keaton has he's trying to be funny in a lot of scenes. I don't really buy the chemistry he has with Maggie Q, but what it's setting up is for the finale that is very much Prizzi's honor.
Oh, okay.
Where Jack Nicholson and Kathleen Turner are the assassins, and they're both assigned to kill one another.
Oh, I haven't seen that film.
It's really good. Angelica Houston won her Oscar for that. And in that one, of course, Nicholson lives, and Kathleen Turner doesn't. So it's kind of the femme reversal is nice. The plot, the narrative device, there's kind of is set upon a MacGuffin. It's the child of this man that's trying to stay dead, who's basically deaf, dumb, and blind, and living in a Catholic orphanage in Vietnam. That it's like you could have excised all that altogether.
You really could have, and I guess I don't know. I think I would have been more invested in if Maggie Q's character maybe had been searching for the people who are responsible for murdering her family.
I think that's another thing.
Because it's such a big component of this character's backstory, and then it's like, well, it's just a fact. It's not really like something that she's...
Well, she killed him already, so that's
as a kid.
But then I don't know that we really need that, because they go into graphic detail in the third act, right at almost the denouement, where we have to see that her mother was beheaded in front of her, and that her sisters were gunned down, and her father shot, and then she's almost raped, and it's like, well...
Which I guess is... I mean, it's a really heavy way to demonstrate how she could become an assassin, I guess.
It is, but it's like, I don't know if I need that
I don't think I needed to know why she's an assassin.
But they're trying to make it like she's refused to face her past, never wants to go back to Vietnam, even though the country's changed. And so they're trying to do that. And I think maybe they should have stuck with their more subtle visual tics they had with that, because she chops off her hair as a kid when Samuel Jackson finds her in the closet, and basically that's the same haircut she has again as an adult, going back to the very same site where she killed all those men.
Speaking of her hair, when we first are introduced to her, she's very wiggy. Yes. That hairline is like, derp.
Yeah.
And then the wig she dons, like in the middle portion, is like a bob with bangs. That looks a little crunchy.
Oh, I didn't mind her look like that. I mean, it looks clearly like a wig, but
they have her in those dresses you see at those cheap, cheap, like $5 clothes. I don't know. I thought she was styled oddly and her hair was crazy. And then at the end, like you mentioned, we see her like pixie cut, which I thought looked nice on her. She's a beautiful lady. Mm-hmm. But yeah, her hair game was a little off to be.
The flirtation with Michael Keaton, especially the scene in the restaurant where they're holding their guns at each other, and there are lots of references to guns pointed at genitals from both of them. I think both of the actors, again, it's doing what they can with this dialogue, but it is cheesy, and it should have felt a lot smarter than it did. And even like when Samuel Jackson's approaching the target at the end, and they have that extended scene.
Right, that.
And he's like, the guy's like, who are you? He's like, I'm the big bad wolf that they call in when someone's decided that you're not to be alive anymore. Like, it's some kind of like, whoa, that doesn't flow at all.
Well, and also because Moody, Sam Jackson's character, is really delaying the inevitable, which is he's going to blow this bitch up. So it just, I don't know. Those scenes always frustrate me because it's like, oh, at any moment someone's going to come in and foil your plan. Like, just kill them.
Yeah, just kill him. And Samuel Jackson's kind of in Shaft mode.
Sam Jackson gives you what you pay for, and I don't mind it.
But again, and you can see that there are moments where it's like, oh, I bet they think this script is smart, because it reminded me of a line Ellen Barkin says in a terrible movie called Man Trouble, when she says, "You two-timed me 2 times," which is kind of what the movie's doing with both Sam Jackson and the target. But it's kind of like we're presented with those things that are both kind of like, huh.
I think my final comment is the music. I think it's used...
Again, like Nina Simone, I find used at such odd moments in films. Like, why? What is this saying about Maggie Q's character?
That's all I have. If I would have paid to see this, I wouldn't have been mad. I think if you like Maggie Q or any of the people in it, you probably would enjoy it.
Robert Patrick.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he assists her. He assists Maggie Q's character in like a little plot point.
Yeah, he's like the head of this biker gang in Vietnam, and his name is Billy Boy. And that scene is odd, where they're reintroduced, and he's like, I never thought I'd see you in this country again. It's like, how did you know who she was immediately? But whatever.
What would you give it?
I think 2.5 out of 5 is
I would give it 2.5 out of 5 as well. Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Bye.
Bye.